Martin from the Philippines. We're here in Real Talk Lifeline. So it's a hot summer Saturday afternoon, April 6th, 2024. A month ago, I did a live called Relationships Answers, and now I'm going to do a part two on it. So, what is this about? So, I was reading this book shared by a friend, recommended, called A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And I started reading the chapter on relationships coincidentally last month, so very close to it, in March. So February 27, 2024, I recently got closure. So what's my background? I was in a 9-year relationship. It ended in 2014. 10 years later, I was able to get closure on that. Took a while, but I'm very grateful for it. Again, another a quick background on me. I grew up, I went to school, um, preschool, prep, grade one to 12 years, 1993 to 2005. Followed the narrative, got a girlfriend, and then you know how we're taught here, it's like you find the one, you watch Disney, you meet your princess, you live happily ever after forever. Now that didn't work for me. So for people who can relate, hashtag relate down below. So this live is about getting answers to relationships, especially maybe it didn't work out your way, or maybe you're just curious, you're open, and you're open to learn a different side of the truth, right? Different perspective. So let's get to it. What I'm going to do is in part one, I was sharing quotes or lines from the book, A Return to Love, that really hit me. So let's do a continuation of that. And this is all on the chapter of relationships. So it's on topic. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to just open one of the windows over here. So I did this in my me time over 3 sittings. And let's see if I get you on the right one. This one is not that one. Pardon. So it started in March 20. Let's see. Correct. March 21, and then 25 and 28. So here we go. I'm just going to be reading the lines that really hit me. So I put a mark over here and I'm going to relate that to my life. So let's make it personal for me, meaning I'll make it practical and apply it. So the first line that hit me over here is, we can all relate to the desire to find Mr. or Miss Right. It's almost a cultural obsession. But according to A Course in Miracles, the search for the perfect person to fix us is one of our biggest psychic wounds and one of the ego's most powerful delusions, the special relationship. Although the word special normally implies something wonderful, from a course perspective, special means different, therefore separate, which is a characteristic of ego rather than spirit. A special relationship is based on fear. This one hit me, boom, right? Because how can you tell if this special relationship is based on fear? If that person is going away or leaving and I feel bad, right? I feel like I'm in fear. I start feeling the cousins of fear, which are anger, hate, um, you know, you get what I'm saying already, right? It's one of the darker or destructive emotions. Then that special relationship is actually not healthy. So here, as we go lower, uh, another line that hits is, the special relationship is based not on love but on guilt. So this one, as I reflect, it's more like, again, this is hitting hard for me. It's like when I was in my lowest moment, and sometimes some of you could relate. You were there for someone when they were in their lowest moment. You didn't abandon them. And then when you were in your lowest moment, no one was there for you. So sometimes people may call that like abandonment issues, right? Self love, like that. The thing is, what we can control on our end is, how am I going to make the other person feel, right? So if it's based on guilt, then you already are getting a hint, right, of what that is like. Again, an unhealthy manifestation of that special relationship. So the other side of the relationship here is they call it a spiritual relationship, just to distinguish it. There's the special relationship based on fear, and I believe the book calls the spiritual relationship based on love. Next line. We are not put here to audition one another, put someone on trial, or to use other people to gratify our own ego needs. We are not here to fix, change, or belittle another person. We are here to support, forgive, and heal one another. So I love this one because our own ego needs, they tend to do that, which is we want to control another person. Why? What I've learned from hard experiences, it's a human need or an ego need, which is a need for certainty, right? A need for stability, a need to be right because we feel safer that way. We feel more familiar. So the opposite and the healthier one is I love this. This last line is to support, forgive, and heal one another. So it gives a quick guide what to do. Next line over here. The ego seeks intimacy through control and guilt. The Holy Spirit seeks intimacy through acceptance and release. So you could already feel the difference. Again, I'm sharing the lines that really hit me. Of course, I highly recommend you read the whole book. The thing is, these are the lines that hit me on a practical level as well in my life and how I apply it. Next, we must reveal ourselves at the deepest level in order to find out. When we dig deeply enough into our real nature, we do not find darkness, we find endless light. So, this is one thing I love. Like when I do Real Talk Lifeline, people think when you show your deepest, darkest, or truest self, then you're just, it's scary, right? Because people might not accept us, people might unfriend us, people in our work might fire us, right? Ostracize us, single us out. The truth here is we actually find endless light. Why? When I started attending seminars, Tony Robbins, like that, the people who opened up their deepest, darkest sides to me, I'm just speaking from experience. It made me appreciate you and love you even more. Now, there is a way to do it, releasing it responsibly, like not lashing out. But if ever you've been in those spaces, you get what I mean. If you haven't yet, comment deep dive down below. I'd be happy to share that space with you safe. And then I pray or I hope that you get to experience it too. So next line here in relationships, these have been giving me answers in line with my recent closure just recently, Feb 27 this year. Next line is that's part of its purpose. It will demand all of our skills at compassion, acceptance, release, forgiveness, and selflessness. So that's the reason or part of the purpose of having a relationship. It will test us on our level of compassion, our level of acceptance, our level of release, the emotions, our level of forgiveness when we feel like someone has done us wrong, right? And selflessness. Next line, how a person seems to show up for us is intimately connected to how we choose to show up for them, but rather from my commitment to playing my own role in the relationship on as high a level as I'm capable. So I like this line, and I've been testing it to this day. I'll keep testing it. Is usually we tend to expect people to show up on a high level for us. But what I'm testing here is if I choose to show up on my highest level, the tendency is that other person will also step up, level up, or just for some miraculous reason start to treat me on a higher level as well. So I've been testing that, doing volunteer work, where you're not even paid at all, and yet you still give 100%, right? So people will start to show up for you on a higher level. And I've been testing that personally. So we'll take a quick break here. Those were like my hits, epiphany hits from my first set of journaling. So that was March 21. So I'll share my screen. The next setting I did, I believe, was March 25. So let's get to this one. Correct, not that one. So let's see. Is this one? Correct, correct, correct. So I'm gonna close this. All right. So March 25, this one. So I'm just gonna share the ones that I really mark because just for the sake of time as well. So relationships, on the topic of that, these are some of the answers I've got that helped me so much. Next line is we must deal with what's real. If anger comes up, it must be accepted. So one of the emotions when it comes to relationships, again, it's not just romantic. It could be with your parent, it could be with your sibling, it could be with a family member, a relative, right? Could be your own child. It could be at the workplace. So any form of relationship, one of the emotions that we avoid the most is anger. So I love this line. If anger comes up, it must be accepted. Next line, the unhealthiest thing you can do with anger is to deny you have it. So just to be open, I grew up with a lot of anger. I don't know if that was obvious already to some of you, but the way I speak, and I know if you've gone through it, you could see right through a person if they have it too. So the unhealthiest thing we can do is to deny it. It's a part of the human condition, right? We all have it. Next line. There's a way of sharing our anger with people without expressing it as an attack. So this is super helpful. I'm not saying you made me feel this way or that you're to blame. I'm simply sharing this as part of my own healing in order to release this feeling and move beyond that. So that way, when we say it this way, the person doesn't feel like I'm angry at you. So I'm not attacking you, I'm not blaming you. I'm just expressing it. Remember, I said earlier, release responsibly. This is a way to release our anger or any negative emotion responsibly. Next line. We must face our own ugliness. It often seems, in fact, that our lives get worse rather than better when we begin to work deeply on ourselves. Life doesn't actually get worse. It's just that we feel our own transgressions more because we're no longer anesthetized by unconsciousness. It takes courage to endure the sharp pains of self discovery rather than choose to take the dull pain of unconsciousness that would last the rest of our lives. So, all this means simply is many people don't want to face the ugly truth within themselves, within myself. Why? Because it hurts too much. The ego, it hurts too much. If I open myself up, they might attack me, right? So they'd rather choose to be numb and just live their own way in quiet desperation or in numbness until they get old. And finally, they have a moment wherein they're like, oh shit, I should have opened up or I should have done this before, but too late, the hero, right? That's the way I understand it. Now, if you do get to open up, and this is what Real Talk Lifeline is all about, I believe, I feel that it is so worth it. That's why I do this. Whether or not someone is watching, whether or not someone is liking, loving, reacting, all I know is it's helping at least one person. And if you get it already. Next line. The last thing you want to do ever is to buy into the insidious delusion that spiritual lives and spiritual relationships are always quiet or always blissful. So I love this. Many people think that a guru, enlightened person, right, a monk, they're always quiet or always blissful. So the truth is, that's the opposite. Someone who's highly spiritual has a lot of demons they're battling. There's like a lot of noise. The thing is, that person who's living a spiritual life is doing the inner work so that it doesn't destroy them inside and then it manifests outside. So I love this line. It really made me understand that any quiet person or spiritual person, there's really like a war going on inside, and it takes a lot of effort and inner work, and they are doing it even though it doesn't look that way, right? Next line. My greatest gift is that I continue to work on myself. Children learn more through imitation than through any other form of instruction. Our greatest opportunity to positively affect another person's life. I love this. So when it is a reminder to myself, even doing Real Talk Lifeline, you're not gonna listen to my words actually. The way you guys are gonna learn is actually through imitating my own instruction or my own life, the way I live it. So part of me sharing these lessons is also how I process, how I integrate, and hopefully you feel the difference, the impact on my life, and then you get curious enough to test it for yourself. Next line. That is one of the primary principles of miracles in relationships. We are to look to ourselves, our own lessons, thoughts, and behavior in order to find peace with another person. So that's what I'm doing here. I don't know if you could see it or feel it, but I have been getting more peace with myself. And since it's related to relationships, even with that other person, because of looking at my own lessons, my own thoughts, my own behaviors, and I share it here openly. Next lesson. The ego will always tempt us to think that the breakdown of a relationship has to do with what they did wrong, or what they're not seeing, or what they need to learn. The focus must remain on ourselves. So I love this because it shifts the focus from blame to, hey, taking a deep breath, letting it go, focus on myself. What can I control? Only myself. What can I learn? Reflect, right? Integrate, do the inner work. Because I can't change another person that way through force. When I change myself, when I focus on myself, when I get better, other people change, other people get better. Next line. Not taking responsibility for your own pain is the failure to realize that you can change your conditions by changing your thoughts, regardless of who initiated a painful interaction or how much of the error still lies in someone else's thinking. The other person doesn't have to consciously join you in the change. I love this. So, someone might ask, what if I'm doing the inner work? What if I'm changing? What if I'm putting so much effort in myself, but the other person isn't changing? That's okay. The line here is the other person doesn't have to even consciously join you in the change. It will still work. So I love this. Next line. It's what you're doing to him that's causing you pain. Emotionally, your ego is trying to control him, which is why you're feeling controlled by your emotions. I love this as a good reminder because usually whenever I feel pain, it's because I'm trying to control someone else. That's all this line is saying. So let go. Next line. We decide what we want to see before we see it. If we focus, sorry, like what does this mean? If we want to focus on someone's lack of respect for feelings, we can certainly find that. But a lot of people are making greater efforts than we give them credit for and are working against some formidable odds. So, how I will apply this is I call this like the reframe alchemy, right? Turning a negative to a positive. Whenever we have expectations, meaning we usually focus on negatives oh, maybe that person doesn't care for me. Maybe that person uh wants to ruin my life, like that. Here's the shift. A lot of people are actually making greater efforts than we give them credit for. What are the formidable odds? Maybe they're just trying to get through the day. Maybe they're just trying to earn enough money, right, for their family. Maybe it's April 6th, BIR, tax filing season. Maybe this person has to file a lot of tax, a lot of taxes this before April 15, right? So they're going through a lot of shit in their life. They have enough already going on. So when they make even an effort to make time for me, for you, right, doing this, I feel good. I feel appreciation already for that. So we can actually, here's the key, we can actually decide. Our default is actually to see the lack, right? The wrong. But we can also decide to see this, right? And give credit for them. Next line. Through understanding, we are healed. There you go. It relates, it connects. I would rather choose understanding. Why? Practical reason. It's just for my own sanity. Whenever I see the default of lack, what's wrong, it feels like going insane. Whenever I choose understanding, I feel healed. Next line. Personal growth can be painful because it can make us feel ashamed and humiliated to face our own darkness. But the goal of personal growth is the journey out of the dark emotional patterns that cause us pain to those that create peace. So this is why I'm doing all of this inner work, real talk lifeline. It is the journey. You are seeing the ugliest sides of me. But why? Right? It's the journey out of those dark emotional patterns, the shadow, right? That causes us pain to those that create peace, to heal, to become a better person. Next line. There's a tendency to analyze ad infinitum, yet use the analysis to yet use the analysis itself to justify rather than heal the wound. After a certain point, having seen why a pattern developed, for example, my father was emotionally unavailable, or my mother abused me, and the effect it has had, actual change occurs because of a decision on our part, the decision to heal. So let me apply this. When I started my healing journey, whether it was through seminars, T. Harv Eker, Tony Robbins, my intention was to heal my depression. So it's not, I get this, it's a trap. It's a trap to just keep wanting to watch YouTube videos, learn like that. What I want you, as you watch this live, the replay, is make a decision, be intentional. What is your decision? Is it to heal? Is it to get better? Is it to get unstuck? Right? Is it to move forward? And then feel it. And let's also do something about it after. This is why I love journaling. It is an action in the act of learning, integrating it. What is the next action? The way I treat people, the way I treat you watching this, right? That is an integration and application of the lesson. So it's not just analysis, right? Paralysis. It's actually a decision, learning, integrating, applying, or living it. Next line. I can choose a new response to life. Just because we have an honest feeling, that doesn't mean it's who we honestly are. My angry self is not the real me. Does it have to be acknowledged? Yes, but only in order to go beyond it. So some people will say, yeah, this angry person, that's the real me, right? Let's listen to heavy metal. This animalistic side of me, this is the real me. Yeah. And you're right. Now, here's the thing, let's acknowledge it, yes. Now, one thing I learned about the ego, it's not bad, is it's limited. right? We have the ego self, the lower self, then we have what we call the higher self also. So acknowledge our human, angry, animalistic ego side. It is a part of us, all of us. It's true. And then go beyond that. Do you want to tap into your limitless, infinite self, your higher self? Meaning, even if someone is trying to kill you, can you still forgive them? The ego is limited, it won't understand, right? Algorithm error, it won't know the answer. Now, if you know a guy like this dude, he shows you the higher answer, right? You can forgive people even if they try to kill you, right? So, yes, acknowledge our angry, base, ego side of ourselves only so that we can go beyond that, right? Next, next line, and then we'll end for this journaling day is this had been no small awakening. It was genuine empowerment, a reprogramming of my emotional computer in an area where I had unconsciously gone for an unworkable response pattern every time. I now established a new groove, a new set of possibilities. Initially, I had chosen the way of anger. Now, I chose the way of love. So I love this line because empowerment, reprogramming can actually happen in a short span or even in a moment, like an epiphany that way. So when I gave this talk recently, April 2, I believe, so it's just 4 days ago, one of the Q&A open forum questions was, how do I reprogram? How do I unlearn ways? This was for senior high, junior high, high school students, right? About to graduate. So again, the short answer of our programming, 0 to 7 years old, we get set in our own ways. Sometimes you can have an awakening, an empowerment, or reprogramming wherein we felt stuck in an area and then we didn't know what to do, right? And then suddenly now we have a new set of possibilities. Again, this is why I do Real Talk Lifeline. These answers are just possibilities, ideas that I have tested or I am testing that you could try in your life. So if you're stuck and there's a response pattern, meaning life sucks, I try this, life still sucks. Try these other possibilities, and then maybe life gets better, right? Has like it has worked for me. So I'll stop this sharing first. I'm gonna move to the last one actually for answers. So this one is gonna be March 28th. So sharing the last one here in my journaling to end the chapter of relationships and answers I got. So here we go. Unconditional love is the death of the ego. I love this one. Sometimes when I read the line, you already feel that. So what does that mean? In order to love unconditionally, it really does feel like a part of us is dying. And I mean that in a good way. So let's say when my 9 year relationship ended in 2014, I didn't know. It's not that there was another guy already there, right? So it's pretty much like you're giving up your ex wife. Now, I'm just saying that figuratively because it was a 9 year relationship. The way I was trained how to treat a girlfriend back then was like that commitment, right? Ride or die till death do us part. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the other person will treat you the same way, but that's how I took it, right? Now, what does death of the ego mean? For me, one of the lines she said was, it's like she's climbing a mountain, there's a rope tied to her, and she's gonna cut the rope because if she doesn't, both of us are gonna fall down. Now, there are two sides to the story. I wasn't in a good place. I get it, right? Now, death of the ego here means you're saying yes, that she will cut the rope and I'm gonna fall down into the abyss. And that's what happened, actually. So, unconditional love is to not drag down the other person, even if it feels like I'm gonna fall off and die. And that's really how it felt for me. So this line hits really hard. Now, the hope here is there is that word unconditional love. I still believe in it. And maybe there'll be other lines that might help. So, next line, in order to truly communicate, we must take responsibility for the heart space that exists between us and another. It is that heart space, or the absence of it, which will determine whether communication is miraculous or fearful. So I love this because one of my mentors, and he passed away just last year, Feb, Coach Bam Santiago, when I took up life coaching, the seminars, and I also trained alongside him in this facilitator training program for like almost a year in the year 2022, right? Or that it was a year span. So when one of the words, I just remember one of the words, the terms he uses is heart space. And this is really the way to truly connect with another person. So one thing I learned from him, another thing, the connected hug, it's a heart to heart, physical touch or connected way of hugging and connecting with another person. So, why is that important? I learned this line. It's like the heart has its own intelligence and it's actually greater than our brain. Now, I'm an INTJ personality, scientist, thinker, right? And my ego can easily say, what do you mean like the heart is smarter than the brain? Like that. From experience, I have witnessed it and I have learned that that is true. The heart really has a higher intelligence. So that heart space is what allows us to love instead of to be in fear, right? The miraculous versus the fearful. Communication or connection. Next line. Simply because it takes all the love we're capable of to let a person go. I love you so much that I can release you to be where you need to be, to go where you need to go. This moment in a relationship is not about an ending, it's about the ultimate fulfillment of the purpose in any relationship that we find the meaning of pure love. So remember the first line above here about unconditional love and death of the ego. This line I love. It was so much more hopeful and a reminder. Maybe what I did was the right thing after all, even though it hurt. Because it takes everything just to let go of the person you love and to release them. And it's not about an ending, but that was the test, the fulfillment of the purpose of the relationship, right? What is pure love? Even though you love them so much, you still let them go. Now, one thing why it made sense to me, I don't know where I learned this, was there can't be love if there's no freedom. So the opposite of freedom is control, force. Now, freedom means allowing the person to leave, letting them go, giving them a choice, even if it means the death of the ego. So the next line here, I have said, never abandon a person when you're leaving. I love this line. I've said, never abandon a person when you're leaving. What does that mean? It means that it's important for us to honor the eternal nature of relationships. Ultimately, you discover that how the person treated the last one is exactly how they'll treat you. So, this line really burned in my heart, in my soul, because something in me knew that was just right. You know what? If my ex goes up to me, barring, meaning like if I don't have a nervous breakdown or anything like that, I still want to welcome her, meaning give her the time, talk to her. No fear, no anger, right? Anything like that. I'm not saying get back into a relationship or something with her, but it's coming from a place of love, pure love, rather than fear, anger, hate, right? Now, why is this important? Because I don't want to abandon another person. I know what it's like to feel abandoned, right? So I don't want to treat another person that way. And this line was such a reminder that that is how exactly I'm going to treat the next person. So that lesson just clicked for me. Next line. Our needs are not separate. If we continue to another person, sorry, our needs are not separate. If we contribute to another person's pain, it will always come back to haunt us. If we do what we can to help them, someone will always come around to do the same for us. So I put the karma wheel there, the emoji, because I do believe in karma, not in a superstitious way, not some bullshit superstition, right? Oh, because you're gonna get karma. Fuck that. What I mean is, it's just like a law of the universe, like gravity. So I really truly believe that if I contribute to another person's pain, I will get pain back, not from the same person necessarily, but it could be 10 times from another person or another situation. It's just the law of action and reaction, cause and effect, sowing and reaping, right? But if I do what I can to help someone, again in the right way, not with not with expectation of like manipulation or something like that, then maybe I'm still testing this. Maybe it will come back around and do the same for us. Next line. Almost there. When a relationship doesn't work out for whatever reason, our disappointment is natural. Every intense encounter represents a deep and complicated karmic connection. An ending relationship is much like a death, and in many cases, the sadness is even greater. When someone has died, has often been completion and understanding. That doesn't occur when both people are alive, but have separated without higher awareness. Perhaps the one we love is simply on the other side of town now, sleeping with someone else. Yet, they are really universes away since the resolution we so crave has not occurred. There's no need to pretend this isn't a knife to the heart. It is. And there's nothing to do but cry the tears that gush forth like blood from a wound. So I love this because when I went through a heartbreak, what is the stereotypical advice you would get from your guy friends or people in society? Get over it, right? So when a relationship doesn't work out, Marianne Williamson says here in a Return to Love in her book is it's actually like a death. And sometimes death is even easier because the person is fucking dead. So you already have closure, right? You could see it and feel it with your own eyes. There's a completion and understanding. If people are both still alive, like it's a breakup, a relationship breakup, you don't know what the other person is doing, especially if you didn't meet and have that closure. And I got mine 10 years after. I'm grateful I got it. Some people, they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and they still haven't gotten it, right? So, and it's not just like, is she sleeping or he sleeping with someone else? It's, did they really love you? Are they angry at you? Why do they hate you? Why are you like that? Right? So this actually describes very, vividly what it's like to go through a breakup, and it's real because I went through this. Next line, almost there. The harsh things we digest can contribute to our beauty only when we open up enough to really take in the horror, oddly enough. So why am I sharing all of this? Some people might say, "Man, this is crazy, this is scary. Man, why are you sharing relationship horrors like that?" Well, the irony of it is when we go through the process, and it's a part of life, we all go through this. We will all go through it. You can convert that into beauty, into transformation, into healing, or into peace. So this is part of the work that I'm doing. Next line. A symbolic 3 days represents the time it takes between the crucifixion and the resurrection, between an open hearted response to hurt and the experience of a rebirth that will always follow. So, what does this mean? In my case, it took 10 years. 3 days. That's like Jesus was crucified, he died. On the third day, he rose again, right? Like he came back from the dead. So, it took me 10 years. Now, the thing is, there will always be a rebirth that follows your death. That's why I love this line. And I'm living proof, man. I'm still here 10 years after. For some, it takes longer. For you, I pray that it's shorter. The entire world, this next line, I think this is the last line. The entire world is blessed by the presence of healed people. So, this is why I'm sharing this. I am an example of someone who has healed or is healing. How do we do that? There are different ways. Forgiveness. I do shadow work, the reading, me sharing these best lessons that help me get answers to relationships. As I heal, it blesses the rest of the world. So this is why I was doing this live in the first place. So let me stop the sharing because that's the end of it. For now, just see if there are any comments. None. Okay, so back here, let me wrap up this live already before it gets any longer. So these are the answers I got to relationships, like these relationship questions that we have, right? So why break up? How do you get closure? These are the best answers I got actually on how I got them. So if you still feel stuck, comment deep dive down below. I'll be happy to help you. I'll just listen to you at first. If you want to break through, you want to get closure, you want to take it to the next level, moving forward, I will help you with that. Thank you. I love you. And I will see you next time.